Good afternoon, this is Atmospheric Alex here, and welcome back to another weather forecast discussion video here for all of our severe weather events coming up. We have got a lot in store over the next few days, and potentially even for the rest of the month, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Just wanted to note we had some crazy storms going on yesterday, including a very intense supercell that rolled in across the Lubbock, Texas area yesterday evening, and it produced probably upwards of 10 to 15 tornadoes. That one right there in particular was a huge issue and was quite the nightmare scenario. Luckily, it weakened as it moved right over Lubbock and only produced some isolated hail, wind, and lightning. Also flash flooding as well. Alright, and the first thing we're going to look at in today's video is the Storm Prediction Center's convective outlook, but we are going to be talking about a very large risk for severe weather. Firstly, I'd like to note you do have a double-barreled enhanced risk area back here. You have one up in Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma Panhandle, and another one for eastern New Mexico again, and the Panhandle of Texas again, especially the Lubbock area. We're really going to need to watch out there for significant severe weather and supercells this evening. Then we have, yet again, a large slight risk for severe weather, even much larger than yesterday, across a very large area, as you can see there, in quite the interesting manner here. And we're going to look at our tornado risk here. We do have a very large 5% risk for tornadoes, and even a risk for strong tornadoes, which will become evident, I think, around the Amarillo area and the Lubbock areas yet again. It's just ridiculous. You all have been getting pounded with severe weather lately. And going up, of course, into Colorado and Kansas, you have your risk as well, and then your extension of your 2% further off to your east. For your wind risk here, it's pretty basic. We just have a large 15% risk again for wind. Could we see a hatched risk maybe in these areas, back here? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. And for your hail risk, we do again have a very large hatched risk for hail here, upwards of 3 to 4 inches in diameter. And your 2 enhanced risks becoming more apparent here. And again, a very large, interesting risk for severe weather here is going to be in place for today, including a lot of people. As we go into tomorrow, we see a very large slight risk for severe weather, definitely one of the larger ones I can remember for this time of year. We're talking about Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, all under the gun for severe weather tomorrow. And the main hazards for tomorrow will include, well, a little bit of a risk for tornadoes. We'll see if a 5% gets introduced, not anticipating it for now. We're talking about definitely your wind risk out here, 15%. A hail risk for sure. Could we see large hail? I really have no idea. It's very uncertain at this time, but that is what we are taking a look at for tomorrow. Now on to day 3, wow, another enhanced risk for severe weather, level 3 out of 5. Again, Amarillo, Lubbock. It's just, again, more severe weather out there, extending into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, almost there. And then again, another big slight risk, another slight risk out here, a double-barreled slight risk, if you will, that will be present. So just remaining active out there, and I don't see any signs of this really stopping, maybe slowing down a little bit towards, a few days from now, but still remaining active. This activity is why I'm wearing my red shirt today. I really didn't want to pull it out. Going into day 4, we have a slightly smaller slight risk for severe weather here. Again, for Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama here. So a little bit of a different area to be watching out for. Extension of Saturday's severe weather risk here, so very intriguing there. So we are now going to take a detailed look at your severe weather risk from your HRRR model. This is potentially what the radar could look like later on in the day. We are talking about some storms possibly firing up here in northern Colorado, going into around 1 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. More stuff back there as well, but your main risk won't get going for a little bit longer than that. You can see it most certainly here as we get in around 2 to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Your cells really begin getting going here. That one near Goodland, and then you have a couple more supercells firing up in eastern Colorado, and even northern Colorado as well. You see a few of those, and stuff in the mountains as well. I'm not going to say that word because it is the wrong time of year to be using it, but you get the idea. Now, as we continue through the rest of the evening here, your storms continue to intensify. Look at that large hail core there near Denver. We'll have to really watch out for that. And this is why you have your large hail risk even extending into those areas as well. And that continues moving on through, and it really can't exit Colorado until around 9 to 11 p.m. Mountain Time tonight. How about for Texas? Well, again, this is just so much to talk about here, so I'm going to try and go a little bit fast here. We're talking about your supercells firing up in, some clustered areas here, in and around 2 to 5 p.m. Central Time, down to Lubbock, Midland, Alpine, Panther Junction, just in those areas, Hobbs there as well being included. But you're definitely going to be seeing those supercells in your Lubbock intensifying a lot. Look at this, boom, right here around 5 to 7 p.m. Central. Big time hail moving into Lubbock, and even a strong tornado risk with those supercells as well that we're really going to have to watch out for. Then across the rest of the area, just a mess of hail, very large hail in those supercells being possible. And your tornado risk, again, anything that remains by itself in this area could produce a strong tornado risk, even an intense tornado risk. I may even go a little further than that as we go into our parameter space. And these storms continue rocking and rolling on through into Abilene here, going into around midnight tonight Central, and these really just continue and maybe finally die out later on tonight. Now for Oklahoma, what are we expecting here? Well, we're going to take a look here, even into Kansas as well. We have some very intense supercells forming up here near Liberal, Kansas here that are definitely capable of very large baseball, softball plus size hail, even a tornado risk, and damaging, potentially even destructive winds at times. I could definitely see your strong downbursts with those supercells there as they move through. Take a look at that one there. Very long tracked in nature. We could see a long track strong tornado risk for those areas there. And then your supercells enter Oklahoma and develop later on into the night, and especially these out here. This one, very large hail core here, bringing baseballs and softballs into western Oklahoma, and that will really just continue. This is not working correctly today. I don't know why, but just imagining these storms would continue to move through the state and slowly weaken through time. Let's go into Arkansas now, again, trying to keep the pace up. Your storms moving through this morning, potentially weakening. If they don't, this could be a much greater risk, but you could see going into Little Rock and Pine Bluff, some trying to sustain around 1 to 3 p.m. Central, and further off to your east we go, right here across Kentucky, Tennessee here. Your storms really flaring up here around noon. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, right? This video will be released around then, but we're seeing those strong, potentially even severe storms firing up here. Not really much of a supercell risk. It just looks very messy in nature. Some of your storms, look at this out here near Paducah, Mayfield, Kentucky. Definitely talk about damaging winds, even some large hail concerns, and an isolated tornado going into around really 2 to 5 p.m. Central Time. Whereas we rewind the clock, storms may form too early, and we will have our very tall anvil clouds extending up into the sky, and they're going to be blowing out ahead of these storms, producing a lot of shading and lower storm energy throughout much of this area of East Tennessee here. So definitely a lower severe weather risk for those areas, as you will definitely be seeing a lot more cloud cover and a lot less warmth as we go later into the afternoon, into the evening. Regardless, strong storms are still possible across those areas. And again, we see more supercells trying to fire in the plateau. Maybe a tornado risk. We'll have to watch for that. And then look at that. Oh my goodness, really coming off the plateau there with your damaging wind risk there and your hail risk as well being evident in spin-up tornadoes anywhere along those linear segments. And a very loud night for East Tennessee looks to be underway. Let's go all the way to the northeast now. Completely different. Let's go into Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. We can see some pretty intense thunderstorms firing up here. Even some isolated supercells. Looking near Hartford here, and if Springfield, Concord here, we'll definitely be talking about severe weather moving in around 12 to 3 p.m. this afternoon, and really continuing and intensifying here. Large hail cannot be ruled out with those storms. I know it's the Northeast, you're not used to it, but definitely some big time hail cores showing up on your HRRR here. And more of your wind risk out near Albany, and just your popcorn cells in other areas too, damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. definitely going to be talking about your hail with that, south of Concord here. And again, not a forecast, but definitely talk about a lot of flooding as well in those areas. Again, turn your emergency alerts on your phone and crank your weather radios on high, so you know when those flooding and severe weather warnings get issued, because it could be quite serious out there this evening. And your parameters, we really got to speed it up here, really are uptrending. Talk about some pink colors here. So where your supercell is going to be, which I think roughly will be in this area here, could definitely be talking about maybe an isolated, intense to violent tornado. I really hope not across the Lubbock area, but again, you may have that supercell tracking through your area later on this evening, so you really need to be extremely weather aware there. Again, Lubbock, Texas. I repeat, you need to be extremely weather aware. And even those supercells off to the north, very favorable environment as well. Borderline volatile as well, so certainly going to be watching that closely. And again, quickly here, moving in across Tennessee later on this evening, definitely could see some reds and oranges here. Further east, you do have a sharp cutoff line as we rewind the clock a bit. Your slight risk area, in my opinion, should stop right here. Anything to the east of that area, I am not expecting much severe weather, unless you're on the other side of your Appalachian down here. We're going to have to watch for that. Otherwise, though, I do think deep into East Tennessee, into your valley locations and foothills, even mountains, much lower risk of severe weather does exist for today. So let's now go into tomorrow. You could see a pretty big line of storms pushing in across Oklahoma going into tonight. That is why you have your slight risk in place. And then you could definitely see after that things really begin to wind down. I'm not expecting much. Across Arkansas here, you have your morning round. Definitely going to be talking about damaging winds and large hail across a pretty large area going into Fayetteville, Little Rock here. I would say in around 3 to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. That actually continues and maintains strength moving into Mississippi here. That's something we need to watch, and some isolated severe weather here. Look at this, even across portions of northeast Texas and southern Arkansas, possibly going into tomorrow night. A bit of a boundary sets up, some supercells are possible, and a low tornado risk actually cannot be ruled out along the boundary. Now, how about further north into Missouri? Could see some isolated or scattered supercells firing up across Columbia and St. Louis. You guys have not gotten a break this year at all. Severe weather just very frequently, and a lot of tornado warnings have been issued for your area. And it wouldn't be shocking to see yet another one tomorrow. It's just, I'm sorry, but this is a pattern we're in, and there's nothing we could do about it. Moving into southern Illinois, some more supercells as well could move into tomorrow evening. Further off to your east here, across Kentucky here, southern Indiana as well could see some supercells and storms. I don't think the supercells will be all too intense or much of a tornado risk, but we'll have to wait and see. Going into around, 5 to 9 p.m. tomorrow evening. And then, of course, across Kentucky, some isolated severe weather concerns could develop there. Further south, a morning round of storms can impact Huntsville, Birmingham, Atlanta there as well. And there's your main line of storms here with 60 to 70 mile an hour winds and maybe some small hail as well. Not expecting much out of that. But moving into Birmingham, Alabama, maybe around 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and you could see that continuing for quite some time. So a long-lived mesoscale convective system could end up being underway. Then overnight round, another mesoscale convective system is possible, and another one could form out here. It is summertime. This tends to happen at this time of year, albeit much further north. And again here, goodness gracious, again, severe weather here across Georgia and the Carolinas, so we're talking about that tomorrow evening. Again, another area here to watch, North Carolina, could see some isolated supercells and severe weather across the Raleigh area and even across the Martinsville, Danville areas going into around 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and more supercells in eastern North Carolina here. We're really going to have to watch that for an isolated tornado risk. Your parameters goes as follows for Saturday, your supercell composite here. If you have any storms that form in Texas, definitely you're going to be talking about a pretty large hail risk, damaging wind, and even tornado risk, but that's not set in stone yet. But across these areas here, definitely going to be seeing heightened parameters as well that we're going to have to watch out for. And as we push things a lot further off to our east here, you're going to begin to see this as well. more of your heightened parameter space here across southern Illinois into Kentucky. That is not a forecast. It's very mesoscale in nature. And then, of course, going across Tennessee as well, you're just going to have a little bit of a blanket of slightly favorable parameters. Nothing off the walls, though, at all. And rewinding the clock here back to tomorrow evening, heightened tornado risk is definitely possible across eastern North Carolina along your ocean boundary, I guess you could say. Okay, what about Sunday here? Well, we're talking about pretty much the same song and dance for the plains. Big ol' eruption of supercells could occur around Lubbock. I really hope not. They've dealt with too much lately. Amarillo here, Wichita Falls. This is a NAM model, so don't take it too seriously. But the fact it's showing supercells is a pretty big red alarm here that we need to watch out for. Possibly an embedded strong tornado risk as well. And further off to the east, well, here you go, East Tennessee. It shows a line of severe storms Sunday morning. I'm not buying it. But across the rest of the area here, definitely going to be talking about the risk for severe weather for a pretty large area. This might be a little too overdone here, going way up into Virginia and Pennsylvania. Your parameter space here does include your risk of an isolated strong to intense tornado risk going into Sunday evening here. A nice weak boundary here, something here, and something here, all meeting into one distinct area where you're going to see a lot of vorticity and a lot of helicity come together and meet. You can see that supercell in a very favorable environment. And further on off to the east, this is way overdone. This potentially shows a tornado event. I definitely wouldn't take that seriously, but we'll have to wait and see it with model data as it comes through. Going on through into Monday, because you have yet another risk. This is across the Dixie Alley here. Multiple mesoscale convective systems are possible into Monday, bringing significantly damaging winds, some hail, and a tornado risk as well. And definitely here, maybe a couple supercells trying to fire up here on your NAM model, potentially for Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama going into Monday evening into the overnight hours. Your parameter space, we do have that here. Definitely going to be seeing some heightened parameters with that as well. And your GEFS supercell composite here, you definitely can see your risk areas as they play out through time. And as we continue going on through, again, it just doesn't really seem to stop. A pretty loud signal continues with your yellow colors here across the central and northern plains. And yes, for sure, going to be talking about your risk continuing here. And, potentially not only a risk back here, but maybe out in front of this as well for these areas. Could see some mesoscale convective systems firing up like this, maybe some derecho activity going later on into the month of June, mid to even late June is what I'm thinking. And you can see that panning out. My goodness, yeah, just again, a loud signal across your northern plains. Severe weather will be in the right areas, but again, just kind of intense in nature. And that just continues. So I'm going to be busy here watching this all unfold and giving you all updates over the next month. It just does not seem to end anytime soon, unfortunately. That being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit of a longer one. There's been so much to cover lately. And again, you could just see how much severe weather we've been dealing with. You had your crazy supercell in Lubbock yesterday, and look at that there, producing strong, tense, violent tornadoes. And then you had this line up here this morning that produced potentially a localized tornado event. It has been extremely active lately for the month of June. If you did enjoy, please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community, share with some friends, family on social media as well, and leave a comment in the section below if you have any future suggestions for me, because again, we've been tracking a lot of stuff lately, and hopefully I didn't miss anything in this video. Have a wonderful night, everyone, and stay extremely weather aware across quite a few areas, as we'll be talking about rounds and rounds of severe weather.